Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we got our first sneak peek, that's right, for the next update. And this appears to be, as I predicted, a follow-up endgame update. So for the small minority of you that were not sure whether it was going to be an Avengers Endgame Part 2 update, you are now sure. And on top of that, we have quite a lot to dig into from not only the image, but also the text, and a couple of other things involved. So let's get into it and let's get our speculation game on, which is one of my favorite games. So we've got here, Rescue is coming, so it's very obvious we're getting at least one new character. Super blatant text here, along with a godly amount of help. Now that can be interpreted a couple of ways. Obviously, if you've seen Endgame, and hopefully you have by now because the spoiler ban's been lifted, at the very end when Cap says, or when Cap is going to fight Thanos one-on army, the portals open up and everybody comes through. They could be referring to that godly amount of help because that's the first time that Rescue is shown in the movie, and then she does that back-to-back thing with Iron Man. But it could also refer to literally gods because Thor's Stormbreaker is listed here, and then sort of semi-godly powers, Captain Marvel. But we're going to have to wait and see exactly what that means. It could also mean new characters as well. Even with their backs against the wall, they don't give up. And then hashtag more future fight, hashtag Avengers Endgame. So at least one character plus the two uniforms that we knew were coming because of the Apple Store What's New update post that was all the way in April that said new uniforms for blah 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 blah, Thanos, Thor, and Captain Marvel. Additionally, on Mobrum, they said the Avengers have taken down Thanos and prevented the events from the previous encounter being repeated. So they're basically just summarizing what happens in Endgame because they go back in time. This time, we made special preparations. Once the preparations had been completed, we knew that losing was no longer an option because that's what Cap says. Whatever it takes. Let's take a quick glance at what we had prepared for the Avengers. New reinforcements, we get this here. Did you notice anything or anyone familiar? New forces are coming to Marvel Future Fight soon. Stay in touch for more details soon. Now, the one negative thing that I will say about this sneak peek, and I do need to bring it up, not to scare you or not to kind of, give you bad vibes, but for Netmarble to know and for future sneak peeks to not feature this word, additional. Additional makes it sound like, for one, there was already a May update, which there was not, and two, it does have the kind of connotation, or it has the sort of like feeling of it being sort of a tack on or just sort of a small update. We are not expecting a small update. We're not expecting an update with just one character and two uniforms. I think that would be a major letdown for Endgame. I know that they already said that they're working on buffing and reworking some of the uniforms, but that is work that they had decided to add on to whatever was planned. So for people to say that, oh no, Alex, the update's bigger because they're going to rework Iron Man's uniform and they're going to rework, some other character, Nebula's uniform or whatever. No. Those reworks from the original Endgame uniforms, that's extra work that they decided to take on. But if the update that they planned to do, let's say the first part of Endgame was amazing and we loved it and we didn't complain at all they were going to give us was this, there definitely has to be a lot more to these sneak peeks. I expect at least a couple more characters. I expect at least a few more uniforms, and I expect some sort of change, some sort of update, some sort of game mode rejiggering, kind of switching around the numbers or something. And if you compare this to last year when we had the only other two-part update of the year, which was of course Infinity War, it just said Sneak Peek 1. This is a much better way of doing things, and this has the implication that it's a full regular update, but we don't normally get additional on a teaser. And again, I don't want to make too much of a fuss, too big of a fuss about this, but it does bother me. Now, as far as what we can expect from Thor, Captain Marvel, and Rescue, well, there's actually a lot that we can expect, so I want to get into it. But in addition to that, of course, we do have the possible alterations that could have been planned from the beginning for Endgame Part 2 because they don't want to reveal spoilers. Now, as far as Thor is concerned, a lot of people do want Thor to get a lot stronger. He's quite weak as a tier 3, and when you compare him to Thanos and Captain Marvel as universal types, he's not even close. So I think big bumps to his damage, in addition to a possible either just straight up damage buff or a skill change to Thunderblow, I think is necessary. I actually really like the skill animation, so they don't have to necessarily change it. It's not quite as bad as Iron Man's, but it definitely needs work. It just doesn't do enough damage, and the ticks don't do enough damage, and the shock damage isn't as good, and it only lasts for 2 seconds. So I think they just need to like triple or quadruple the damage, and that should help Thor quite a lot, and it should make his tier 3 skill feel more substantial because it looks so cool, and that's his move from Wakanda. It deserves to be stronger. It wiped out basically half of an entire army. Other than that, I don't think his skills really need changes. You know, he's got immunity, he's got a guard hit, he's got iframes, he's got cool animations. I don't think he needs any other meta effects. I mean, they could give him more if they wanted. They could have given him a damage reduction, or they could give him more like self buffs because he doesn't have any self buffs. They could give him a buff where he buffs his own lightning damage. They could give him a buff that reduces incoming damage to make him tankier, or gives him a heal or something. I mean, it really doesn't matter what they give him, but I think anything besides damage is like super gravy. I think if they just double his damage or whatever, he'll be great, and if they do more, then I'm just going to be even happier. But I don't have super high demands for Iron Man. Captain Marvel, I have even lower demands. I don't really know what they're going to do for a uniform, and it's going to be interesting because I don't see her getting more than one uniform. Now, whether they make the uniform a 630 synergy uniform with the Captain Marvel MCU introduction uniform, or if they go the way of Doctor Strange and they make it a 350 crystal uniform that basically has, you know, 1 or 2 or 0 changes, and it's basically just a very similar, they could have her floating, I guess, instead of not floating, or glowing instead of not glowing, possibly the haircut as well. We do see a small change in the design of the uniform because the one in the sneak peek is on the left side. If you look at here, it's on the left side. This is her original one, and this is the new one when she shows up at the end of the movie with the middle ending where she has the pixie haircut. And she's got a larger insignia in the middle. So we will see some visual changes. Whether she's going to be hovering or not like Doctor Strange, we don't know. But whether it's a 350 crystal uniform with very few changes, or it is a 630 synergy uniform, we'll have to wait and see. Going back briefly to Thor, I mean, I don't necessarily want, but I could expect, it's not outside of the realm of possibility to get 2 uniforms for Thor, to get his kind of enhanced Asgardian Stormbreaker type uniform for the end scene where he fights Thanos, in addition to a team suit a la Captain America and Ant-Man and these other guys, because he also has that. And so they could sell 2 Thor uniforms. They could sell the synergy bonus for him. We could see new synergy bonuses besides just 5% all attack, all defense. I don't know how Netmarble is going to test the synergy effects, if they're not going to experiment on them yet, but we'll have to wait and see. On top of that, as far as rescue goes, I would like to see, and it'd be interesting to see how they kind of model her skills. Is she going to play more like an Ironheart, kind of zipping around, iframes, spinning, lasers, or is she going to play more like Iron Man? Regardless, I think Netmarble has a really good opportunity to make Rescue like Victorious. Now, I know a lot of people are going to interpret that as, you know, Rescue's going to be paywall. I don't know, and I don't really care if she's paywall, but what I mean is that she has a leadership that is based around another character. I think it's a really cool idea, and it creates a really new and interesting type of synergy where there's a super powerful, you know, and I know there's team up bonuses, guys, but team up bonuses really don't convey the type of power that you get from some of these team ups. So, you know, yeah, you've got his leadership, yeah, you've got your team up or whatever, but when you put Victorious here and when you put her in the leadership slot, this is insane. Not only do you get this Protector of Latveria buff, but then she's giving Doctor Doom a 60% attack buff, 20% damage reduction. That's like insane. It's like 2 or 3 leaderships combined and rolled into one. So it'd be really nice to see them do the same thing with Iron Man and Pepper Rescue, for her to have a leadership that does something, but then it gives some even more enhanced bonus to Iron Man, and that could be a way to buff him. It could also be a way of buffing him that doesn't necessarily interrupt the current flow of ABX because she would be a blast female and it's only blast male for that specific day, so it wouldn't necessarily be an issue of power creep or an issue of like a must purchase paywall character, but it would be nice, and it would be a nice way of power creeping Iron Man even more on top of whatever upgrades he's going to get. As far as upgrades for Iron Man, we already talked about it, but just to reiterate again, he absolutely needs to have, you know, I mean, his tier 3 skill is good now at endgame, but he absolutely needs to get additional damage, and he needs to get a skill that actually does apply all defense down to world bosses if that's the move that you want to do, or you just need to give him other skills that do other things, because there's just not enough of a change overall in the character. He's not very fun to play because of that. He's not tanky enough to justify having only, you know, 1 or 2 iframes plus an immunity. The immunity is only 3 seconds. He's just, you know, he just doesn't really do anything well. So we basically need to figure out what they want Iron Man to do well, whether it's PvE or PvP, and they need to push him in that direction strongly. They need to give him a strong shove in that direction rather than just him taking these little baby steps. You know, if you compare that to Cap got such an insane upgrade with the all defense down, and then this massive skill, this massive stat bump and damage buff for this skill that he's like crushing different stages now. I'm crushing like stage 60 Corvus with Captain America. That's insane for a combat type that's getting a damage reduction. Iron Man, we can't really say that about him. So they really need to do what they did for Captain America, but they need to do that for Iron Man. Beyond these 3 characters, beyond you know, what help is coming and what sort of godly amount of help is coming, it's really difficult to speculate, but we could get characters like Okoye and M'Baku. M'Baku's already in the game from the Legendary Battle. Okoye's just been requested for a long time. Beyond them, I mean, they could do a lot of different things. They could provide cheap 350 uniforms for the Black Order because they did get a second viewing in the endgame final battle scene. It would be kind of a shame to replace these uniforms because they were so well made and so highly detailed. So I would almost want them to just copy and paste the uniforms and give them those synergy bonuses, which I know seems like a kind of shameless cash grab, but it on the one hand, it kind of sucks that the Black Order is so weak and they're not really even close to the meta. But then on the other hand, you know, we don't really want to encourage that kind of stuff of just copying and pasting. So maybe it's a bad idea. But beyond them, I don't really know what they could do. I mean, they could give a new uniform to Black Panther, although he has the exact same one from Infinity War, but he didn't get one for Infinity War. The last one he got was for Marvel's Black Panther, which was a few months before Infinity War, but then he didn't get anything else because he looked exactly the same. But then that's the same situation as Captain Marvel, but she is getting a uniform. Does Black Panther deserve a uniform? Yeah, he does. I know the whole 3,300 crystal thing is kind of awkward, but man, he sucks. He definitely needs to get a buff. I mean, if he doesn't get one now, I guess we have to wait until Black Panther 2. But that's kind of disappointing. But we'll have to wait and see. We could get another uniform for War Machine, the kind of super buffed up dark and light uniform with the red and the black. We could see additional buffs for uniforms that we already got, like Hulk, like Nebula. We could see Cap with Mjolnir. There's a lot of different things that could come out of this, but we're going to have to just wait and see for these remaining 4 or 5 sneak peeks. What do you guys expect from Endgame Part 2? What game mode would you like to see changed or buffed or tweaked in a way, and why, if you can only choose one? Hit me up in the comments down below. I'm really happy to know for sure that we are getting Endgame Part 2, and I hope it is as good, if not better, than Endgame Part 1. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.